Supermarkets like to present themselves as helpful places. Bright lights, clean aisles, friendly signs, easy choices. But most of what happens inside a grocery store is not designed to make shopping easier for you. It is designed to make spending easier for the store. And if your bill keeps climbing, that does not automatically mean you have become careless, weak, or undisciplined. In many cases, it means the environment is doing exactly what it was built to do. It keeps you moving. It reduces friction. It rewards quick decisions. And the less time you spend questioning a purchase, the more likely you are to make it. That is why so many expensive grocery habits do not feel expensive in the moment. They feel normal, helpful, healthy, convenient, even responsible. But once you slow them down and look at the pattern, something becomes very clear. Many of the biggest money leaks in the store are not about food quality at all. They are about emotion, routine, and presentation. So in this video, we are going through 10 grocery items that quietly take more from your wallet than most people realize. Not to make you anxious, not to tell you never to buy them, but to help you spot the pattern while it is happening so the store does not get to make the decision for you. Because once you see how this works, even for a second, you stop shopping on their terms. And the first place this shows up is in one of the most convincing sections in the entire store. Foods labeled diet, keto, paleo, or Whole30 are often sold as if they are your safest option. They create the feeling that someone has already done the thinking for you. You see the label, and you feel relief. This must be the right choice. This must be the healthier choice. This must be the disciplined choice. That feeling is exactly what gets monetized. These products sit in one of the most overpriced areas in the store because the label itself carries emotional value. It reduces uncertainty. It helps people feel protected from making the wrong food decision. And when a product can offer that kind of reassurance, stores and brands know they can charge more. Take something as simple as peanut butter. A keto-labeled jar might cost around $11, while a regular jar sitting nearby costs closer to $3 or $4. Then you turn both around, read the ingredients, and find the same two things: peanuts and salt. No dramatic nutritional upgrade, no special formulation, just a different front label and a much higher price. The same thing happens with paleo crackers, Whole30 sauces, and diet-friendly snacks. The ingredients are often ordinary: nuts, oats, seeds, oils, spices, basic food dressed up as a specialized solution. You are not necessarily paying for better nutrition. You are often paying to quiet the fear of choosing wrong. That does not mean every labeled product is useless. It means the label should never do the thinking for you. If you eat keto, the real foundation is still ordinary food: eggs, meat, cheese, vegetables. If you eat paleo, it is still fruit, vegetables, nuts, and unprocessed protein. The more a product charges you for permission to eat it, the more careful you need to be. That is the control shift here. Read the ingredients before you read the promise. If the food is simple, let the ingredients justify the price, not the trend. Because once a label starts deciding value for you, the store has already taken the lead. And that same loss of awareness shows up in a completely different way with the next item, not through fear, but through habit. Bottled water rarely feels like a serious expense because it does not ask for much thought. You grab it, toss it in the cart, and keep moving. It is one of the clearest examples of autopilot spending. No hesitation, no comparison, just repetition. A bottle here, a case there, maybe a cold one at checkout because you are tired and thirsty. Each purchase feels too small to matter. But small purchases repeated without awareness are often the ones that do the most damage over time. A single bottle might cost $2. That does not sound like much until it becomes routine. One bottle a day for each person in a family can quietly turn into hundreds of dollars over a year. And the actual water inside often costs only pennies. Most of what you are paying for is packaging, shipping, storage, branding, and convenience. In some cases, it is filtered municipal water in a plastic container, sold back at a massive markup. But once it is bottled, chilled, and placed in the right spot, your brain treats it as more valuable than the water available at home. That is the real mechanism. Bottled water turns hydration into a retail habit. There are other hidden costs too. More plastic waste, more storage space, more exposure to microplastics. But even if you ignore every environmental argument, the price gap alone is hard to defend. A home filter can last for months. A reusable bottle can last for years. And both reduce the number of times you hand over money for something you likely already had access to. The control shift is simple. Make water convenient before the store does. Keep filtered water cold at home. Carry a reusable bottle when you leave. Remove the excuse that convenience is selling you. Because once a habit stops being questioned, it becomes one of the easiest places for money to leak out unnoticed. And if bottled water works because you do not think about it, the next category works because it makes you feel before you think. Fresh bakery pastries are one of the most carefully engineered impulse zones in the entire supermarket. That smell of warm bread, butter, sugar, cinnamon, maybe vanilla, does not just happen to drift through the air. It is part of the sales system. Stores know scent bypasses a lot of your logic. It reaches you before the price does, before the nutrition label, before the internal conversation about whether you actually wanted dessert. By the time you are looking at the tray, the emotional decision is already halfway made. A muffin for $4, a brownie for $3, a pastry for $5. Individually, none of these seem outrageous. That is what makes them so effective. They are priced low enough to feel harmless, but high enough to carry strong profit margins. The ingredients are usually inexpensive: flour, sugar, eggs, butter. What you are really paying for is the timing of the temptation, and most of the time, these items were never part of the original plan. You did not come in for a croissant. The store created the craving while you were there. That matters because unplanned purchases are rarely judged the way planned purchases are. Your brain remembers the smell, the comfort, the little lift in mood. It does not remember the receipt with the same intensity. So the behavior repeats. This is also why bakery sections are almost always positioned where they can interrupt your route. Warm lighting, open displays, fresh trays, sometimes even scent enhancement. Everything about the setup says reward yourself. And of course, you are not wrong for enjoying a pastry. The issue is not pleasure. The issue is whether the pleasure was chosen or planted. The control shift is to decide before the scent does. If bakery items matter to you, make them intentional. Put them on the list, or save them for a specific occasion. That one pause changes the purchase from impulse to choice. And when that happens, the store loses one of its easiest emotional triggers. Now let's move to something that looks practical, familiar, and trustworthy, but often gives you less value than you think. Big brand spices are one of the quietest overpriced categories in the store because the jar is small, the purchase feels routine, and the cost seems minor. $3 here, $4 there, not enough to trigger concern. But spices are often extremely expensive by weight, and the familiar brands sitting at eye level are not necessarily the freshest ones available. In fact, many lose a good portion of their aroma long before they ever reach your kitchen. That is why so many people open a jar at home, shake it over the pan, and notice the smell is weak. Then they assume they stored it wrong. But the problem may have started much earlier, somewhere in the chain of processing, bottling, warehousing, and shelf time. Spices do not always spoil in the obvious sense, but they do fade. And once they fade, you need to use more to get the same effect. So not only are you paying more upfront, you are also going through the product faster because it is less potent. That is a hidden double cost. The reason big brands keep winning is not always quality. It is familiarity. The jar looks safe. The label is recognizable. You know where to find it, so you stop comparing. Meanwhile, smaller international markets, bulk sections, and specialty shops often move spices faster. That can mean better aroma, stronger flavor, and a lower price per ounce. No fancy bottle, no trusted jingle, just fresher product. The control shift is to start checking value differently. Smell matters, turnover matters, price per weight matters. If a spice has almost no aroma It is not giving you control in the kitchen. It is quietly taking it away. And once you realize you may be paying more for weaker flavor, the familiar bottle starts to look a lot less dependable. That same comfort-based pricing shows up in another aisle too, only this time it is wrapped in morality, health, and peace of mind. Buying organic is not automatically a bad choice. In some cases, it may be worth it to you. The problem begins when the word organic ends the decision instead of starting it. Most people know the moment. Two nearly identical products are sitting side by side. One says organic. Your hand moves toward it almost automatically, as if the label itself has already settled the question. Better, cleaner, safer. And once that feeling arrives, price resistance weakens. The issue is not that organic has no value. The issue is that not every organic purchase delivers equal value. Foods with thick peels or naturally low pesticide residue, things like avocados, onions, or some forms of corn, may not justify paying 30 or 40% more just because the label feels reassuring. But the store does not need you to sort through that nuance. It only needs the label to create enough comfort that you stop asking for specifics. That comfort can become expensive in ways people do not notice at first. You might buy less produce overall because the organic version costs more. You might reduce variety. You might stretch the same dollars thinner and still feel virtuous because the cart looks cleaner. Stores understand this psychology very well, which is why organic sections often look calm, bright, and carefully arranged. The display itself helps reinforce the impression that you are making a responsible choice. Sometimes you are. Sometimes you are just paying extra for emotional certainty. The control shift here is not to reject organic. It is to become selective. Let the decision depend on the actual food, the price difference, and your priorities, not the automatic halo around the word. Once you stop treating every organic item as equally necessary, you protect both your money and your ability to choose clearly. And that leads directly into another category built around a different kind of pressure. The pressure of being busy. Single-serve packaged snacks are sold as if they bring order to a chaotic life. They look efficient, neat, portable, controlled, perfect for lunchboxes, car rides, desk drawers, and rushed afternoons. But much of what you are paying for is not better food. It is pre-measured packaging. A large bag of crackers or pretzels may cost far less by weight than the individually wrapped version sitting beside it. Sometimes the difference is double, sometimes triple. Yet because each little pack only costs a few dollars, it feels manageable. That is how the category protects itself. It stays small enough per purchase that most people never stop to calculate the pattern. There is also the illusion of portion control. People assume a snack pack keeps intake in check. But often the portion is so small that it disappears before satiety even catches up. So one pack becomes two, sometimes three. More packaging, more spending. Not necessarily less eating. Families are especially exposed to this because the marketing is so polished. Bright colors, friendly mascots. Labels that promise easy mornings and simple lunches. It feels like the product is helping you stay organized. In reality, it may be training you to pay more for less food over and over again. Take a moment and think about your own pantry. How many tiny packs move through the house quickly with almost no memory of when they were bought? That is the pattern. Fast disappearance, low awareness, repeated replacement. If this is starting to sound familiar, good. Right around this point is where the bigger system becomes easier to see. Different products, same structure, a little more comfort, a little less thought, a little more money gone. So here is the reset point. The next time you are in a store, ask yourself one quiet question. Am I paying for food here, or am I paying to remove one small inconvenience? That question matters because once you notice the pattern, it stops feeling random. You are not bad at shopping. You are moving through a system that rewards speed and charges extra for hesitation. And the fact that you are noticing it already puts you back in control. The control shift with single-serve snacks is not complicated. Buy larger sizes when practical, then portion them yourself at home if you need to. Use containers or small bags once, not branded wrappers every week. You still get convenience, but on your terms. And nowhere is the price of convenience more obvious than in the produce section. Pre-cut fruits and vegetables look efficient because they remove one of the last remaining barriers between purchase and eating. No washing, no peeling, no knife, no cutting board. Just open and eat. That sounds helpful, and sometimes it truly is. But the markup can be startling. A container of cut watermelon might cost close to $7, while a whole watermelon nearby sells for 3 or 4. Same fruit, same store, same day. The only major difference is a few minutes of labor in a plastic container. Yet those few minutes are enough to double the price. And the trade-off is not only financial. Once produce is cut, freshness starts declining faster. Exposure to air, moisture loss, extra handling, and light all speed up deterioration. In many cases, the product spoils sooner than the whole version would have. So you are paying more for something with a shorter life. That is a powerful pattern in grocery spending. Convenience often reduces durability. Stores know these items appeal to people who are tired, rushed, or trying to feel just a little less burdened when they get home. That is why they are displayed so neatly, usually in bright, clear packaging that signals freshness and safety. For someone living alone or recovering from injury, pre-cut produce may occasionally make sense. The point is not to condemn it. The point is to stop letting exhaustion make the decision automatically. The control shift is to match the format to your real life. Buy whole produce when you have the energy and a plan to use it. If prep is the barrier, do a few minutes of cutting at home once, then keep it ready for the next day or two. You keep the convenience, but you stop paying premium prices for every single bite. And once stores learn that you are willing to pay more for convenience, they often try another angle too, making you pay more for excitement. Trendy superfoods are one of the best examples of how modern grocery marketing turns curiosity into spending. You are not usually buying them because a doctor told you that your body specifically needs maca powder, goji berries, acai powder, or chia seeds this week. You buy them because they keep appearing in front of you until they start to feel important. That is how trends work. Repetition creates legitimacy. Words like superfood, detox, ancient, antioxidant, and nutrient-dense are powerful because they sound scientific enough to be convincing, but broad enough to avoid promising anything concrete. Once the label goes on, the product stops feeling like ordinary food and starts feeling like a health upgrade. That is what allows a small pouch to cost as much as several days' worth of apples, oats, beans, or frozen berries. And here's the part many shoppers never hear clearly. Superfood is not a scientific category. It is a marketing category. Yes, some of these foods contain beneficial nutrients. So do many ordinary foods that are cheaper, easier to use, and far less likely to sit untouched in the cabinet. Leafy greens, beans, sweet potatoes, oats, frozen blueberries. Regular foods with no dramatic branding and no social prestige attached. Social influence does a lot of the work here. If enough people online appear to be buying something, it starts to feel like basic awareness. Then you buy a little to try, then maybe another pouch later. And before long, you have a shelf full of expensive optimism. The control shift is to ask a practical question before buying. Will this become part of my normal routine, or am I buying a story about myself? If the answer is uncertain, step back. Health is usually built through repetition, not novelty. And when you stop chasing every new miracle ingredient, the trend loses its grip. That same emotional positioning appears again in the drink aisle, only this time it is tied to energy, reward, and survival through a long day. Expensive coffee drinks and energy drinks rarely enter the cart as simple beverages. They show up as personal permission. I need this. Today. I earned this. I am exhausted. This will help. That is why they are so effective. The purchase feels justified before the can is even cold. A bottled coffee for $5. An energy drink for $3. Maybe more if it uses premium language like clean energy, focus support, or natural caffeine. The drink is gone in minutes, but because it is linked to motivation or comfort, it does not register the way other spending does. Over time, though, the pattern becomes expensive. Several drinks a week can quietly become hundreds of dollars a year. and many of them create a cycle rather than solving a problem. Sugar spikes energy, then drops it. High caffeine stimulates, then leaves fatigue behind. So the next tired moment arrives, and the solution is already waiting in the fridge. The industry understands this perfectly. It is not mainly selling liquid. It is selling readiness, alertness, relief. The feeling that you can get through the next few hours if you just buy this one thing. That is not weakness. That is conditioning. The control shift is to separate the need from the packaging. If caffeine helps you, there are cheaper ways to get it. Brewed coffee at home, tea, a thermos before leaving the house. Even deciding in advance which days a purchased drink is actually worth it can break the reflex. The goal is not to deny yourself every treat. It is to stop every tired moment from becoming a retail moment. And that brings us to the final category, which may look affordable at first glance, but often carries the heaviest long-term cost of all. Processed convenience foods, such as instant noodles, frozen meals, canned heat and eat dishes, and heavily prepared snacks can seem like the most budget-friendly options in the store because the price per item is low. You can fill part of a cart with them quickly. They are easy to store, easy to prepare, easy to justify after a long day. That surface affordability is exactly what makes them dangerous. The issue is not that every processed food is bad, or that every frozen meal should be avoided. The issue is repeated dependence. Many of these products are built to be hyper-convenient first, satisfying second, and nourishing only enough to keep the cycle going. High sodium, refined starches, lower quality fats, additives designed for shelf life and texture. They can fill you up fast without keeping you satisfied for very long. And when food repeatedly leaves you undernourished or unsatisfied, you often compensate elsewhere. More snacking, larger portions, more cravings, less energy to cook, then even more reliance on prepared products. That is how the pattern deepens. There is another cost people rarely talk about. The more often meals arrive fully decided, the easier it is to lose confidence in basic food preparation. Not because you are incapable, but because the habit fades. And once that habit fades, your dependence on expensive systems grows. This is where the financial story and the health story start to overlap. The cost is no longer just what shows up on the receipt. It can show up in lower energy, fewer options, and over time, more pressure on your body and your household routine. The control shift is not perfection. It is recovery of flexibility. Keep simple ingredients around that make easy meals possible without requiring much effort. Eggs, rice, beans, pasta, frozen vegetables, rotisserie chicken if needed, soup ingredients. Basic foods that can become more than one meal. That is how you reduce dependence without turning shopping into a full-time project. And now, the bigger picture comes into focus. All 10 of these grocery categories look different on the surface. One sells health, another sells routine, another sells comfort, speed, reward, or convenience. But underneath, the pattern is the same. The store is always trying to reduce the amount of thinking between seeing and buying. That is the system. It is not really about whether you have bought these items before. Almost everyone has. It is about recognizing what was being sold alongside the food. Reassurance, familiarity, identity, relief, a break from effort, a shortcut through a tiring day. And once you see that, something important shifts. You stop blaming yourself for every expensive habit, and you start noticing the structure around it. The layout, the labels, the emotional cues, the places where convenience quietly becomes a markup and where reassurance quietly becomes a premium. That awareness matters because it gives you your pause back, not a complete lifestyle overhaul, not obsessive budgeting, not standing in the aisle comparing every gram of every product. Just a pause. Long enough to ask one question before the item enters the cart. What exactly am I paying extra for here? Sometimes the answer will be worth it. Sometimes convenience will be worth it. Sometimes a treat will be worth it. Sometimes the organic version will matter to you. But when the decision is made consciously, the purchase belongs to you again. That is the real point, not restriction. Control. So the next time a label reassures you, a scent pulls you in, a package promises convenience, or a drink offers instant rescue, notice the pattern. The more clearly you can see it, the harder it becomes for the store to use it against you. And if this changed the way you look at even one aisle, stay with that feeling. Because once you start shopping with awareness instead of autopilot, the whole store begins to look different.